Rubinetti is a first-year English teacher at East Side High School in Newark, New Jersey.
East Side High School is a comprehensive high school with a magnet touch. Demographically, Portuguese, Brazilian, but it's definitely a diverse high school as well.
Nicole enjoys teaching and has a close rapport with her students, but planning engaging lessons for her 80-minute classes is a constant challenge.
It's when the kids are bored and when they aren't interested in what's going on. Because then I have to reflect and think, okay, maybe it's me, maybe I'm not presenting this in a clear way.
Today, Nicole is starting a new unit on writing personal statements for college. It's a critical set of skills her students need to master, and she's been working closely with her department chair to plan the lesson.
A lesson plan embodies what students are going to do throughout the lesson, what actual skills you're going to teach to students, and what students are going to do with those skills in order to master them. So a lesson plan creates purpose. So tell me a little bit about the class that you're going to be teaching tomorrow.
They are juniors, so some of them have already taken the SATs, we've already taken the HESPA, so the last couple of weeks are really going to be geared towards college, real-life practices.
That sounds perfect. So you're going to start working on personal statement writing for the next class.
Yes, I want to introduce it.
What do you think your main goal is? One of the first steps that I talk to teachers about when they're going to plan a lesson is really thinking about the end in mind. What do you want students to walk away from your class knowing? And that is your objective. So the objective is specific and skill-oriented, and it has to be measurable.
My main goal is going to be to have the students complete the introduction to their personal statement.
We have to be very specific. The skill here is persuasive writing, I would say, because students have to persuade a college that they need to be accepted. When I think about your lesson, the objective is you want students walking away from your classroom knowing what effective and ineffective strategies for personal statement writing are.
Okay, right over here. Okay guys, today we are going to go over personal statements. By the end of class, I want you to be able to identify if that's a powerful personal statement or if it's ineffective and just general.
Once an objective is clearly defined, the next step is to break down the lesson into manageable parts.
When I think of a lesson plan, I couch it in terms of a do now, a mini lesson, guided practice, independent practice, and then your assessment. And each chunk plays a part in achieving the goal that you've set out from your objective. To begin that lesson, you're going to have a do now. And in my mind, a do now is a focused way to invest your students in what you need them to do. When each piece of your lesson has a purpose and flows well and is related to your objective, there will be a natural transition. What do you think an effective do now for that lesson would be?
They have to compose at least 5 questions that they would ask somebody if they really wanted to get to know that person. Kind of just want to get them in the mindset of, you know, what a good personal statement is. All right, guys, 10 minutes. Date and the do now.
A do now is usually 10 minutes max. It's a very short thing. Sometimes you can connect it to students' lives. The do now for many teachers is a routine as well. So it's a way for students to come into your class, to get out their materials, to be prepared for the day. And learning starts then.
Kevin, can you please read the prompt or the do now?
If you wanted to get to know someone on a deep and a personal level, what questions would you ask? Generate 5 questions with the neighbor.
Okay, so who wants to share their questions?
The next stage of the class is the mini lesson.
This is your opportunity in the mini lesson to give specific details and information about what you want students to learn. A mini lesson could last from 15 to 25 minutes, and the mini lesson is really the crux of instruction. Teacher needs to teach a certain skill or an idea, and so the mini lesson is the teacher's opportunity to instruct and get that skill across. So in your mini lesson, what are you going to do?
I'm going to show them some sample essays.
Okay.
And I want them to dissect and actually identify, this is why this essay is good. And this will probably be done through a PowerPoint.
How long do you think that's going to take?
I think that may take 20, 25 minutes. What does a personal statement add to your application? Or does it add anything? Is it a waste of time?
It tells that, like, why you're more interesting than other people that apply, because there's like thousands of applications that go for college.
Okay, perfect.
During that 25 minutes, you're doing the PowerPoint, you're showing effective and ineffective examples. What are students doing?
Students will be taking notes while we are going over the PowerPoint. So again, we're practicing our note-taking.
When I talk to teachers about the mini lesson part, I also really push them to think, yes, this is your opportunity to give instruction in your classroom, but I also want you to think of what are the students doing during that time. So if you're giving a PowerPoint or you're having students read something and then you're going to discuss it, you really need to think through specifically what students are doing during that time. You said students are taking notes. I'm going to even push back and say that you need to have a specific method that students are going to take notes. You could have maybe a T-bar during this note-taking session, and one side is effective strategies, one side is ineffective strategies. So right away, students know exactly what they're looking for, and there's no confusion.
Okay, while we are viewing the PowerPoint, you guys will be taking notes in your notebook, but also on this T-chart. Okay, so today we are going to identify the effective techniques and ineffective techniques. So kind of the do's and don'ts of personal statements.
To reinforce the content of the mini lesson, the next step is teacher-guided practice.
Guided practice to me is the teacher's opportunity to model and show exemplars. So students themselves are looking at models. They're not yet creating it themselves. They're just identifying what makes something effective.
So let's read this sample personal statement. Let's act as if we were going to accept or deny this person into our college. And then you have to tell me why, your reasons. Okay, second paragraph. Amanda, can you take it for us?
Because my parents divorced when I was 2, I did not grow up in a secure sense of home.
Okay, what do we think about that paragraph? Effective, ineffective, and why?
Ineffective.
Ineffective, why? Too much family information?
Are you selling yourself to my school? Why would I want a person who shows up rooms, doesn't know what religion they are, and like, it just doesn't, you're not selling yourself to me.
Okay, how many of us agree with Amanda? Why, Richard? Okay,
During
you do that.
guided practice, teachers should move around the classroom to ensure all students remain on task.
It's important to have a plan, to walk around, to know specifically who you have in front of you. So you know that this group back here likes to talk and maybe be off task. So your proximity is paramount.
A well-designed lesson also includes time for independent practice.
Students are ready at that point to take what's been taught previously in your lesson and use it on their own to create what you want them to create, to use the skills that you've taught that day.
What should we not do? Lie. Don't joke. No slang. Don't complain, yes. Okay, I'm glad that you guys have these opinions, okay? Because now it is going to be your turn. After you have your possible topic, you are going to flip the paper over. Let's flip the paper over. Great. You are going to write up here your topic, the one that you chose, okay? And then you are going to compose your introduction.
At the end of the class, teachers should assess how well students have mastered the lesson.
How do you know that every student in your class has mastered what you want them to master?
I was hoping that their exit ticket would be just their introduction to their personal statements. And they would hand that in before they leave.
The assessment is really, you go back to your objective and you think about what skill was I intending to teach today? What skill was I intending students to master today? So in Ms. Rubinetti's class, the assessment is going to be, can students produce an effective personal statement? Can students identify what makes it effective, what makes it ineffective? And so by the end of this lesson, at the end of this 80 minutes, you're going to know what?
That they can compose their introduction using the techniques that we talked about during the PowerPoint.
Lessons don't always go as planned, and Nicole, running out of time, decides to turn the exit ticket into a homework assignment.
Instead of having you write your introduction today, okay, because these questions are going to be very important, I want you guys just to generate 3 to 5 topics. Take this home with you, okay, and we'll discuss tomorrow. Resumes and cover letters go in the bin. Your homework from last night goes in the bin.
Nicole's class is over, but the lesson planning process is not yet complete.
I think the final step in lesson planning is reflection. I go back to my lesson plan. Now I have all the tools that I need because I actually taught the lesson. I remember what students were doing. I remember what I was doing. And so I analyze each part of my lesson and I try to pinpoint the part where things fell apart. And then I think, what could I do next time? Nicole, how do you think that lesson went?
My main goal for this class, they were supposed to have their introduction completed, or at least the first draft, an introduction to their personal statement. That did not go as planned. We ran out of time. It's always hard to gauge, will students pick this up easily and be able to knock it out in 5 minutes, or will they need 20 minutes? So sometimes it's difficult to tell.
I think pacing is one of the hardest things in a lesson plan. We chunk it, we assign times to it, but sometimes a certain section of our lesson plan lasts longer or it doesn't last as long as we intended it to last. And so there's still kind of this juggling act of being flexible and thinking on your toes. I really think that students did accomplish some of the goals that you set out for them. And I think from your mini lesson and from the discussion that students had after that mini lesson, and even when they were starting to write it themselves, they were able to identify and recognize what good writing looked like, what was interesting about it, what was not interesting about it. I think you're doing amazing things with your students, and I'm excited to see what their personal statements look like in the end.
Thank you.
Create an objective that is specific, skill-oriented, and measurable. Create a do now that sparks student interest in the lesson. Present key concepts during the mini lesson. Use guided practice to model the concepts being taught. Use independent practice to allow students to apply new concepts and skills. Take time to reflect on the lesson after it's been taught. Assess student mastery based on the lesson plan objective.